Hello. Thank you for joining us today for our Cancer, Heart Attack, and Stroke Cross-Sell webinar. My name is Sarah Christie. This type of coverage is so important, no matter what other health coverage your client has. Not only will we talk about why to sell it, but also how to sell it. And I want to go ahead and just let you know that this presentation isn't carrier specific. We aren't going to go into specific details such as benefit levels, optional riders, etc. There are many excellent plans out there that vary by market. What I really want to get into is the cross-selling opportunity and how it benefits your client and you. So why sell cancer, heart attack, and stroke? So every person has known and possibly lost someone they know, a relative, a friend, or a coworker, to cancer, to a heart attack, or to a stroke. These occurrences cannot be predicted. They don't just happen to a select group. Everyone, including myself and you, could experience any of these personally in our lifetime. And that's a really sobering fact. Briefly, I want to share with you my why. My father was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer a few years ago. He had regular PSA screening and never had an elevated PSA until he did at stage 4. My family was devastated and scared. He ended up having to have his prostate completely removed. Recovery was long and difficult, and my dad had his own business. I remember my mom, my sister, and I would come home from our regular jobs and go straight to my dad's business to work at night to keep that business going. On top of the physical and mental trauma of the actual condition and treatment was the constant fear and worry that the business would go under while he recovered. If he had had a cancer plan in place, that fear and worry could have been completely removed. Now, I'm very happy to say my dad beat cancer. He is 76 years old and still enjoying a very full life. I'm willing to bet, though, that we all have similar stories, whether they be personal or via friends or other family members. So the need is there. Every 40 seconds, someone in the U.S. has a heart attack. Every 40 seconds, someone in the U.S. has a stroke. Every 30 seconds, someone is diagnosed with a new cancer. Every 30 seconds, cancer. These numbers are staggering. This coverage is so important because these types of things are so prevalent now. In the U.S., the lifetime risk of developing cancer is 42%. That's 1 in 2 in men, and 38%, 1 in 3 in women. $174 billion is the total projected cost of cancer in the U.S. in 2020. 7.9 million living Americans have suffered a heart attack, and stroke is the leading cause of disability. Did you know that 60% of all costs associated with a cancer diagnosis is non-medical related? Non-medical related. What that means is that 60% of the cost of diagnosis and treatment will not be covered by your health insurance. So just to use a round number, if your treatment costs were $100,000 in total, $60,000 of that would come out of your own pocket. Now, most people don't have an extra $1,000 laying around for a root canal, much less $59,000 more for cancer care. Let's look at some of the costs that are related to diagnosis. Now, some of these are medical in nature and some are not. And they include things like ambulance rides, any medical testing, procedures, hospital stays, any rehab that may be required, durable medical equipment for when you get home, traveling and lodging for your family during treatment, time off of work, reduction of income. Protect your client. So cancer, heart attack, and stroke plans can save your clients money and provide them with peace of mind if and when they experience one of these life-changing events. This type of insurance supplements your client's current health coverage and generally pays a lump sum benefit, and that money can be used towards whatever the client needs it for, whether that's medical care, making a house payment, child care, paying utilities. This type of coverage really allows your client to focus on getting well, not the financial impact of the family. And based on my experience with my dad, that is so, so important. So how can you use these funds? As I mentioned, they generally pay out in a lump sum benefit. So let's look at some of the ways these funds can help you. Medical costs. But medical costs also include the deductibles that you pay for your health insurance and your copays. So you can use that money to pay those things. And of course, for prescriptions, transportation. And then on the non-medical cost side, as I mentioned, if you have a reduction in income or you have to take a leave of absence for treatment, paying the house payment, childcare, housekeeping, any sort of dietary needs that you may have to change your diet after a certain event like a heart attack. If you choose to go the route of involving holistic medicine, obviously health insurance isn't going to pay for that. So this would help with that as well. upkeep of the home, and family and caretaker expenses. Some folks need in-home care after treatment, and that can be really, really expensive. So now that we know there's an extreme need for these types of plans, let's talk about how we sell them. Now, these occurrences are not something any person wants to think about. It's up to you as their agent to make sure they understand the need and how these plans can help them. So first of all, your best resource is your own book of business, all clients. You only have a 5 to 20% chance to sell to a new prospect. You have a 60% to 70% chance to sell to a current client. If your clients have opted in for email communication, send them an email letting them know you offer this type of coverage. If they haven't opted in, you can always send a letter through the mail. Include some statistics like the ones we mentioned in this presentation. Almost everyone has had their lives affected by cancer, directly or indirectly. Now, every carrier that offers these plans has pre-approved print material on their agent portals. And build relationships with your centers of influence. Drop by and introduce yourself to the administrators and office staff. Get to know them in your community. Let them know that if they know anybody or have any clients that may have questions about that kind of coverage, ask them to refer them to you. Start the conversation. Now, whenever you're meeting with a client about health insurance of any sort, generally you conduct a needs analysis. And this, for this particular type of coverage, explain what their current or potential plan covers and what it doesn't. Explain those potential out-of-pocket costs. And you can start that conversation by asking some of the questions that you can see here on your screen. Do you know anyone that has suffered a heart attack or a stroke? Anyone you know been diagnosed with cancer? Or do you have any family history of these diseases? Now, the most common objection that we hear from a client is they feel like their costs would be covered under their current health coverage. And that's what I would assume as well. If I weren't in this industry, I would assume I have health insurance, and if something happens to me, that health insurance will pay for whatever I need. But you need to explain to them that their current coverage likely will not cover all of the necessary drugs and treatments needed to help these conditions. Also, if your client wants to travel out of state for treatment, and many do, those travel and lodging costs come directly out of the client's pocket. And their health insurance also will not cover their salary if they have to take a leave of absence to receive treatment. Last but not least, increase your retention. Remember, if you aren't offering your client the option for this very necessary coverage, another agent certainly will. And once they get their foot in the door, you may begin asking your client about their other coverages. Thank you again for joining me. And of course, as always, stay safe. Thank you.